Everybody, my name is Gene Coltas, presiding member for the Metro Inner Development Assessment Panel meeting this morning. I declare the meeting open at 9:30 a.m. and in doing so I acknowledge we're hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and we acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of West Australia, pay respects to elders past and present, and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. This meeting will be run in accordance with DAP Standing Orders 2024 under the Planning and Development Assessment Panels Regulations 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of the Planning and Development Assessment Panel Regulation 2011. And members are reminded to announce their name and title prior to speaking. During the meeting, members may refer to technical devices throughout to assist them in considering the information before them. As I said, my name is Gene Coltas, presiding member. To my left is Clayton Hyam, deputy presiding member, and to his left is Francesca Lafanti, specialist member. Councillor Raj Doshi from the City of Perth is attending the meeting. At the moment we can't see her, but we can hear her. Item 2 on the agenda is apologies. Councillor Liam Gobbett, Deputy Mayor Bruce Reynolds from the City of Perth send their apologies. Item 3, members on leave of absence, there are none. Item 4, noting of DAP minutes, they're all available on the DAP website. Part B of the agenda. Item 1, I'll ask all panel members to confirm that they've duly considered all of the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and Part B related information, and note the R13 direction response was published on the 29th July 2025. Councillor Doshi, we can see you. So panel members, can you all signify that you have considered all the documentation? Thank you, that's unanimous. Item 2 on the agenda is disclosures of interest. Do any members have any interest to disclose on the matter? If not, Councillor Doshi, was this item considered at council meeting at all?
No, it was not.
Okay, if not, I'll move on to item 3 of the agenda, which is the actual application before us for a storage facility at 20 Sutherland Street, West Perth. And we do have a set of presenters. They have been given 9 minutes in total. And it's Jared Ross from TBB Planning, Peter Layton from Studio 2 Architects, and Sam Labour from PTG Consulting. And if you sit at the table and commence your presentation, please, which we have a copy of. Speaking to it. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, presiding member. Good morning, panel members. For the record, my name is Jared Ross. I am a principal with TBB Planning. With me today is Steve Gertis from Store Local, Peter Layton from Studio P2, and Sam Labour from PTG Consulting, in addition to my colleague Gillian, also from TBB. We are here to present a self-storage facility for Lot 100, number 20 Sutherland Street in West Perth. The facility is proposed by Store Local. Store Local is a major national developer and operator of self-storage facilities. They operate in all of the mainland states in Australia, and they currently operate 4 facilities in Western Australia. So the West Perth facility will be there. The City of Perth has significant residential growth aspirations through their local planning strategy. They are looking to significantly grow the resident population of Perth. The majority of that growth will be achieved through apartments, and when people move into apartments, they very quickly realise that they don't have a lot of space to be able to store the stuff that they don't use on a regular basis, the guitars that you intend to play, the snowboards that you intend to use. So that generates quite a significant demand for self-storage facilities like this one. People want self-storage facilities that are reasonably close to their local area. They don't want to have to be trekking out to Balcatta or Park to be able to access their things. So these facilities are quite important in attracting and growing the resident population of a CBD area. The subject site is actually quite a challenging one in terms of development. So the city's local planning strategy, their local planning scheme, seeks to facilitate activated land uses throughout the vast majority of the city, quite rightly, because we're trying to create an active, lively environment. This site is challenging because of its contextual surroundings. It sits adjacent to the Mitchell Freeway, adjacent to the railway line, adjacent to Rose Street, which is a fairly busy road. There is no realistic pedestrian desire line which goes adjacent to this site. And if you're familiar with the site, you'll recognise that it has been a vacant site and only accommodating a billboard for around about the last 3 decades. Aerial photography indicates the last time it was used for a purpose was in the late 80s. So it is a challenging site, but it is actually a perfect site for a self-storage facility because of its location, because of its accessibility, and because of its somewhat dormant nature of use. In terms of an assessment against the planning framework, as outlined in the city's RAR, we are largely compliant with the planning framework. We're compliant with car parking, waste management procedures, plot ratio, and the bulk of the standards. Where we are seeking variations are to setbacks and interface design, because the setbacks are designed for buildings that front the street and create an active presence. The frontage of this building will not be active. It is a dormant land use. So what we have proposed is a moderate setback from the street to allow a greater level of landscaping and interface treatment to create an attractive design of the streetscape, albeit not an active design. The interface treatment is of a very high quality and provides, in our view, an outstanding contribution to the streetscape. We had a number of meetings with the City of Perth and the City of Perth's architect in designing this proposal. We took it through the DRP process. The DRP process, or the DRP provided us with fairly strong support, subject to some minor modifications. We have incorporated those modifications in the final design, and Peter will talk about that a little bit further. In terms of the conditions, we do accept the majority of the conditions as proposed by the city. We are seeking deletion of condition 11 on the basis that we don't consider it to be reasonable or necessary. So this condition limits the access at Sutherland Street to left in, left out and right in, but restricts the right out movement. And Sam will talk to the more technical nature of this position, but our proposal has demonstrated the right out movement. So to be able to leave the site and access the freeway directly will not create a traffic hazard, given the low volumes of traffic that are heading out of the site and the low volumes of traffic that are heading southbound on Sutherland Street. With that, I'll hand over to Peter. To the design response.
Thank you. Yeah, can I just have the next? Oh, actually, let's start with approval. The site, which is relatively isolated from the urban fabric of West Perth, is ideally situated against the north-south Mitchell Freeway arterial, providing opportunity for an appropriately scaled development with clearly visible signage. Due to the changing West Perth demographic, which includes an increase in residential development, the site is well situated for its intended purpose. Furthermore, the scale of the residential units being introduced into the market are of a size that has made storage in this form a sought-after commodity. The site is easily accessed from both Sutherland and Rose Street, with internal circulation across the site positioned to the rear of the development to ensure the best possible presentation of the built form to the public interface. Due to the proximity of the development to the freeway, there is very little pedestrian traffic and no need for street activation. As such, the development has been set back slightly from both street boundaries. This provides opportunity for the introduction of soft landscaping, which provides interest at the interface between the built form and the streetscape, enhancing the visual experience. Massing of the building is can I have the next one? Yep. The massing of the building is horizontally articulated through the introduction of a two-story podium, which is playfully reinforced with a bold orange canopy element, which forms part of Store Local's corporate imagery. In response to the comments from the DRP, the following revisions to the facade treatment have been made. To further articulate and provide additional visual interest for both vehicular and pedestrian traffic, additional fenestration has been introduced on the corner of Sutherland and Rose Street, as you can see in that image. A deep relief pattern will be applied to the concrete panels at the podium level, which will cast interesting shadows due to movement of the sun during the day and through the use of specialist lighting at night. There's a the remaining portion of the building above the podium is vertically articulated with linear strip fenestration, dividing the facade into a series of slightly textured vertical concrete panels. The building is further articulated through the introduction of Store Local's corporate signage applied to strategically chosen panels. These panels are finished in Store Local's corporate blue color with white lettering. In response to the comments from the DRP, the following further revision to the facade treatment has been made. The blue corner panels and those receiving signage are subtly emphasized through a slight increase in height, which will further articulate the top of the building. Not easy to see from this, but they are extended slightly above the parapet level. In an effort to provide some level of natural light penetration into the structure to help with customer orientation, the internal corridors align with the external vertical strip fenestration, affording views to the west, south, and east from within the building. We believe that this development will be a welcome addition to Perth's architectural landscape and will provide West Perth with a much needed self-storage facility. Thank you.
Thank you, panel members. Sam Laybutt from PTG. I just wanted to present on the question of right-out access from the site and reiterate that the applicant is seeking MIDAP to make a determination today. We're not seeking a deferral for the consideration, but just asking for the DAP to consider it on its merits. Why do we want to write out for this site? Every site wants the best access they can get. For this development, access is quite important in the early stages because we're going to have a new building that is empty and Store Local will be looking to secure leases for a large amount of storage spaces. In that period, it's very important that customers feel like they have easy access and egress from the site. This reduces over time because one, existing customers get used to their access routes to and from the site. And secondly, as leases are terminated and come up for renewal, etc., you have a much lower turnover and an easier ability to on-sell leases. It's important to note as well that this is not a high traffic generating use. So this is not a service station or something similar where access is critical because there's a lot of volume. Access is critical here, like I said, because of the customers, but also the 24/7 nature of the operation. So people will be travelling to this site at all times of day, not just in peak hour. So when there's no traffic around, then it makes sense to have greater access. Jared, do you want to? So the city in its RAR mentioned a couple of reasons for not supporting the right out, and they mainly related to the nature of the right-in, right-out movement, as well as the City West access point, which is located on the other side of Sutherland Street. But Sutherland Street is quite a unique location. We're not looking at a major, busy, divided arterial road with heavy traffic in all directions. It's a little bit different here. It almost functions as a quasi one-way street. So rather than being a typical right-out movement where you need to cross a heavy southbound movement, you're actually only crossing 260 vehicles per day. To put that in context, that is the volume of the quietest residential streets in Perth. So it is a very, very light volume of traffic that travels southbound. And that traffic flow is also wholly controlled by the signals that can be seen at the symbolically at the top of the screen. So from a driver's perspective, there's very little interaction. We're talking 6 vehicles per hour total leaving this site in the peak hour, potentially interacting with less than 50 vehicles in the peak hour travelling southbound on Sutherland Street. So what that means, it's a very minimal interaction and therefore a very low level of risk when talking about conflict from a traffic performance, but also a safety perspective. In comparison with the City West site across the road, that is a much higher generating land use. That's a busy retail, bulky goods type development with a huge car park, lots of traffic. And also, if right turns were to be permitted from that site, they would have to cross 6,500 vehicles per day northbound, right? So there is a much greater conflict on that side, and I don't think the two are comparable. Jared, next slide. Okay. To demonstrate that the applicant's access position was suitable, PTG undertook quite a high level of assessment, much more than a site that generates a total of 12 trips in the peak hour would warrant. We undertook a SIDRA analysis, which is intersection analysis tool. It demonstrated that the access would operate at level of service A and B throughout the peak hours. And again, that's primarily because the minimal conflict in the southbound direction. The city did mention that during peak periods, the traffic queues back from the freeway and down Sutherland Street to the lights and so on. In those circumstances, a driver leaving this site is unlikely to want to sit in traffic trying to get onto the freeway and not go anywhere. So they have the option of turning left or using the other access to take a different route. Or if they do really want to join the queue, they can wait at the crossover as you normally do at any sort of T-junction. In the very, very unlikely scenario that a driver misjudges a gap or something and finds himself in the middle of the road waiting to turn, the very, very low southbound traffic volumes mean that there is minimal to no conflict that's likely to occur. And very important for this development, as we've all experienced on many different developments, it was referred to main roads. And in this case, main roads did not object to the right in, right out. They provided some commentary or conditions requiring the applicant to be aware that that access might disappear in the future, subject to some freeway upgrades, but fundamentally they did not object to this crossover being right in, right out. And from a traffic perspective, I think that's very significant. And that concludes my...
Thank you. So in closing, we do accept the majority of the conditions. We are quite grateful to the City of Perth. They have been fantastic. We've been working with them on this site for quite some time, and throughout the assessment, they've been very open. We are seeking approval today, so we're obviously not seeking refusal, but we're also not seeking a deferral. We would like the DAP to determine whether or not condition 11 is appropriate or not. We've put forward our position as to why we don't think that it is necessary and why our site functions better without it, without any compromise to the road network. But we are open to any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, are there any questions of the presenters? Councillor Doshi?
No, presiding member.
Thank you. Other panel members, do you have questions?
Yes, I have some questions.
Member Lafanti.
Thank you. My questions are in relation to traffic. I'm specifically referring to your TIA 9.1.2, your SIDRA assessment. And my question relates to the assumptions and the inputs that you use to talk here that 50% traffic volume in out on Sutherland and 50% traffic volume in out on road. I couldn't find in the document how you came to that input, or what that was based on, the 50%, the 50% numbering or percentage distribution.
Thank you, member. That was an estimate of the likely distribution for access routes to and from the site. So there's a total of 12 vehicles per hour that are trips that are generated in the peak hour. That's two-way trips, so 6 in, 6 out. And then we looked at the different access routes that are available to reach the site. So you can approach via Rowe Street, which would require you to turn right into Sutherland and then right into the site. You can approach from Sutherland through the underpass. You can approach from Railway on the west, and through that you can access the Rowe Street crossover. And likewise on the exit movements, there are multiple options to exit the site. So we did just broadly estimate that the traffic entering and exiting would be split about 50-50. But I also note that even if it was 100% access via Sutherland Street, it would not impact the results because they are so so robust in terms of the performance.
Thank you. Can I have another question?
Yes, go ahead.
My other question is along the same lines, and it's about your calculation of demand, so your demand timetable. Can you speak to that? Noting you've already spoke a little bit about when you say the peak periods are, and I'm interested in understanding the information the analysis you've come up for the peak period of times. And again, I'm focusing on getting clarity around understanding that conflicts with the peak traffic that's getting onto the freeway, which is, I'm very familiar with that intersection, so I understand that. So I want to understand a little bit further about this type of development and in this particular location, and how you've concluded what the assumptions you've used to conclude your vehicle generation to the site and the times of movement of their peak movements of that site. So both number and time.
Thank you, member. So the traffic generation, both daily and peak hour for this site, is based on a report that was commissioned by the Self-Storage Association of Australia, and there was surveys undertaken by a consultant on behalf of the association of over 60 stores nationwide. They were traffic and parking surveys to identify traffic movements generated across time of day and also parking demand from the site. And the reason that was undertaken was because the standard trip generation reference documents that you'll see in front of this panel every week don't really account for this sort of land use, because it's a little bit different. It's not a high generating use in the peak hour. The demand is actually spread across the day. And if you think about the nature of people's usage of this facility, they are potentially going on their way home from work. If they've driven to work, they might stop in, but also it's an after work, an evening, a weekend type facility where they may need to access their snowboard or their guitar or that sort of thing. It's not a we're all traveling to work typical sort of land use that you get in the city area. So that report provides both daily, so that's your total trips during the day, and then your peak hour trips. They're based on the site peak at each of the sites that are recorded. So they don't necessarily correlate to the road network peak, but in the interest of a robust assessment, we have assumed that the site peak of the 12 vehicles per hour will occur at the same time as the road network peak. And we've done our assessment on that basis. And the purpose of that was to demonstrate that in the worst case, if the two peaks do coincide, that we still have a road network and an access arrangement that will operate satisfactorily.
Thank you. One further question, also on traffic. Sorry, I'm not really talking to the other members. On 9.2, future potential future road upgrade, you speak of the development, the impact of the development or the continuation of the development in the event that the access, and we're talking about the Sutherland Street access, the right term particular, is prevented, and you speak about that in relation to the facility would still be able to operate. Can you speak a little bit further? I've had a look at the plans, the material you've given me, and I'm curious about the particularly your servicing manoeuvres as well as your vehicle manoeuvres. And my tap into that is my own familiarity with these is not everybody brings a vehicle. Some bring trailers and things like that to self-storage. So can you speak about your comments in, or further information on your comments in 9.2 about the actual circulation on the site for both servicing and customers?
Sure, thank you, member. My internet's not working, so I can't bring up the report in front of me, but I will speak off the top of my head if that's okay. Obviously, the applicant would like the site to operate as is for as long as possible, and there is no guarantee that Main Roads, thank you, will progress with its project. But it was very, very important to this application that we made sure that in the event that occurs, this site can still operate satisfactorily, and we weren't going to be in a position where operation of the site would be restricted or made unviable. So in the future, so if the Main Roads project goes ahead, Access on Sutherland Street, our understanding is that will be removed entirely. So the site will have a single access left in, left out from Rose Street. Obviously, in the short term, for the reasons I've outlined, we would very much not prefer that to be the case. But in the long term, the applicant is happy to accept that. In terms of servicing, we've made sure that the service vehicle that this site is designed for, which is an 8.8 metre rigid truck, some car and trailer can be slightly longer, but they have a better turning circle because of the articulation. So the 8.8 metre truck, and the 10 metre waste vehicle, I think it was, are capable of turning left in, left out of that site. They do need to go through the site to the northwest corner and undertake a 3-point turn in order to turn around. And that is partly because in this future scenario, we're unable to use the Red Road reserved land. So there's a 3-point turn, and also the shape of the site.
On that turn, I'm looking at the plan. I appreciate you might not have it. Does that interfere with that rear entry? The plans seem to indicate that the turning circle requires.
Thank you, member. I do have the plan in front of me now. I'll zoom in a little. So that area at the toe of let's call it the toe of the reversing movement on the 3-point turn, that area is just part of the paved forecourt, isn't it, Peter? So there's no interference there with building or awning or anything like that. That is all trafficable service area. The intent of that entry labelling area is to quarantine that from parked vehicles.
Okay, those are mine. So you're saying that both the servicing vehicle and customer can safely and appropriately manoeuvre to access on Rose Street in the event the functioning of the site can occur in terms of its traffic movements.
Yes, that's the case. And should that occur, then Store Local will be providing its customers with information about how best to manoeuvre a trailer or a small removal truck, etc., in that event where they need to do a 3-point turn and come back to the truck parking.
Thank you. I have one further question. It's more of a generic planning operational question. I note that the material we have been provided, it says the facility is unmanned. And I'm interested in understanding the management of amenity. I note with these facilities you have access, controlled access coming in and out, but you also have a number of people who are manoeuvring through the site. How is that going to be managed, particularly in this location? There's limited bays on site. There is limited turning circles. Some of these sites have quite circular, simple movement of turning and movement. So I'm interested in understanding the ability of the site to ensure that the customers, you've got an unmanned facility. How are you maintaining support and access through that? It's just, I'm not familiar with some of the unmanned facilities.
No, fair enough. So unmanned just means that there isn't a staff member there at all times of the day. It is a 24-hour operation. So there will be staff on site for cleaning purposes, for maintenance purposes. It is otherwise manned 24/7 virtually. So there are intercoms at the gate, intercoms placed around for the purpose of customer interaction. Accessibility via that and can connect with a Store Local representative virtually if they need assistance. There's also video cameras and monitoring of the site as well for security purposes and for management purposes. So if a customer has an issue, they have the ability to contact a Store Local representative and they will assist them immediately.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
From me?
Behind, yes. Go ahead.
Just going back to traffic, on the split between directions, so 6 vehicles during the peak, presumably that's split between the 2 exit points, entry points.
Yes.
And then they could be going either way.
Yes.
So it could be down to 1 or 2 vehicles probably.
Yeah, absolutely, member, and that's the nature of this very, very low traffic generating. Depending on where people live or need to travel to next, the numbers of any turning movement can be very, very low.
This is, I suppose it might not be an easy question to answer, but I would presume that a lot of users of that facility would not use it during peak times or peak traffic times. They would learn it's easier to get there in and out at non-peak times. Is that the experience of the other centres, the other storage facilities?
I can't speak to other storage facilities specifically, but being very familiar with that particular street, certainly my personal opinion would be if I was a customer of that site, I'd be not looking to go there at 4 p.m. I'd be looking to go outside of the peak, and it is a very short and sharp peak in that area, around the sort of hour to hour and a half, rather than sort of 2 or 3, 4 hours where it's very, very congested. But certainly this particular site will be much more accessible for 20 hours of the day rather than those 4 hours. Jared, I'm not sure if you've got anything to add on any other sites.
No. Unless Steve. So,
I may, I'm the development manager for Store Local. Saturday morning, nationwide is our busiest access of sites between basically 8 and noon.
Thank you.
That's from our data. We operate 40 facilities around Australia. And that's our
Thank you.
empirical statistic.
I have a question. Sorry, question to yourself, if I may.
Go ahead.
You advise, do your facilities, are there different demand for central city facilities, that's what we're talking about here, than more regional facilities, which are quite often have giant big spaces as well? Is there any difference in terms of what you say traffic type is, demand or volume is, between the two? Are there differences between type? And we've heard today from Jared the demand in relation to was connected in some ways to central city development and apartments. Have you got anything you can say in relation to other sites, central city?
Thanks for the question, member. If I can, I don't have data of relative car movements, rural to urban, but we can say that typically the storage size of the unit as you get to urban becomes smaller. The urban, we tend to get larger storage up to, we can even park caravans and boats in the extreme rural situations. We don't see that we don't offer that in any urban situations. The people are tending, because the value of land is higher, possibly, value of storage is higher in urban. We have people rent smaller units, so they tend to be carrying, it may relate to they may tend to carrying less of their goods or possessions on and off the site in smaller vehicles, but we don't have that data for you today, I'm sorry. But we do know that the units are smaller, so they are typically storing smaller possessions, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hine.
Thank you. Given the constraints of the site in terms of the freeway and railway line, is the customer base likely to be a 360 circle or 180 degree circle?
Thank you, member. That's we do sweep. We do a sweep of a 15-minute drive from the site, so that can be any direction. The generator will be typically of a residential nature, we think, not a commercial or office city nature. But having said that, in this location, people may be travelling, their trip generation may be to the city, and this may be a convenient place to store because they've reason to come to the city for something else. But the residential sweep, if you like, will be the shall we say, the highest generator. No, I don't believe the city sweep of the 360 degrees, if that answers your question. Yeah, we always look for where the residents are because they are typically a to and from home trip. That's our trip data.
Okay, thank you.
I've got a few questions. Do you anticipate many of the city-based commercial properties or businesses utilising the facility? Makes sense.
Member, it may be that officers could utilise our business for storage. But we in our other capital city CBD destination, they are still predominantly residential tenants of ours. I think what is happening more, we're finding, is that it's just the residents are moving closer to the city centre. So that the fact that they live near is probably, we don't know if they're actually storage for office or CBD office or retail. We don't. That wouldn't be a high percentage of our tenant base. Still predominantly residential.
Okay.
We do have an exception for near airports. I don't want to get off the subject, but since you asked, near airports, we do find import-export businesses use it as if they're a small business with small product that they import-export, they can set themselves up as basically a mini warehouse until their business grows to the point that they can take on a full-size warehouse.
Thank you. Given that the facility is not manned, how does the box shop operate? I mean, I'm familiar with going to and from storage units. You've got to go in there and get some boxes and tape and all that sort of thing, textures, and who's going to be there to sell that?
It is a virtual experience. Remember, you come in and the camera, it's not AI, it is actually you actually meet a staff member, but there are cameras. We have camera coverage on all of the site, including the site. If you come in and you're not a customer, of course, if you are a customer, you'll just typically won't go to the shop, you'll go straight to your unit. If you come into the box shop, camera, we have screens, and a staff member will talk to you on the screen and video and voice and so that you can discuss your requirements with the staff member and talk about cost and size that you might need, how you pay and how you get your access. So all of that interaction happens on site. Even if you drive up and the gate is closed, we can see you arrive, say hello, you're a new customer, new prospect. We'll let you in, come on into the left and we'll speak to you inside. So they are managed, even though this came from, we found that our stores, manned stores, typically that came from America, that we noticed also in our stores. Manned stores are manned, if you like, from 8 to 5. And we found our businesses were operating mostly after business hours, 8 to 5. So we had to start to work out how to access you Saturday night or Sunday night to get your possessions, or even we can cope with now renting you a new unit should you come on Sunday afternoon. So the businesses were actually a manned site is only manned for, it's not like a hotel. If you're manned during business hours, it's probably only 30% of a working.
What sort of security is there if somebody goes there at 2 a.m. and a nasty person arrives there at the same time?
We watch our stores. We have security, and we are watching our stores. All the public areas are watched, and we have not, fortunately, touch wood, we've not had incidences so much of personal interference or attack was, but we do have incidents of break-in that you couldn't present, that you have to have a security response for regardless. So yes, if you do see we do have cameras, and if we do see a character moving around the site after hour or any time, we can challenge them. We have a PA system. You in the red shirt, what are you doing? And if it needs a security response, we will send one. If it's more serious, we'll send the police. We've had arrests on site, and with 40 stores, not surprising, we deal with the widest cross-section of the community on a daily basis.
Fortunately, you've got Central Police Station just down the road in Rose Street.
Correct.
Quick response time.
We do manage those responses as best we can.
Okay. The question was asked about trailer parking, and a lot of people, when they're moving into a unit or from, they do hire a trailer and come on site. There doesn't seem to be any areas where they can sort of pull into easily. 2 or 3 trailers rock up on a Saturday morning, which is not unreasonable to expect. Where do they park?
Happy to happy to talk to that.
You've got a virtual person who's here to marshal you around.
Thank you, presiding member, for the question. So the site does provide 2 designated truck parking bays, which the intent is that they're also used for trailers. We need to keep in mind as well that the peak hour generation from the site is 12 trips, so 6 in, 6 out. So that's 6 people on site in a given hour. So the Saturday morning peak, for example, that might well be this peak, this site's peak, but it's still only those 6 trips in, 6 trips out. And that's based on the Self-Storage Association's own survey data, not a bespoke assessment for this particular site. It's also important to remember that the site will be busy as the storage units are initially leased. So there'll be people bringing their trailer to move things in. Once they've occupied the storage unit, it's much, much less frequent that they would need to bring a truck or a trailer in, because it's generally you're either checking up on your belongings or you're moving smaller things in and out. It's more those first day deliver everything and then final day remove everything type trips where you do see the trailers on site. But certainly my view as the traffic engineer on the project is that the combination of light vehicle and large vehicle parking is adequate for the projected demand.
Okay, thank you. I've got no further questions. Any other panel members have questions? If not, thank you for your presentation and answering our questions. We'll now open up the questioning of the staff, council staff, if we can. To change seats. Okay. Go through all of your names, but if you could just let us know who you are.
Thank you, presiding member. My name is Julie Kingsbury. I'm the Alliance Manager of Development Approvals at the City. The staff to introduce themselves.
I'm John Garbin, Statutory Officer. Rahul, Senior Transportation Engineer.
Roberto Colillo, Principal Urban Planner at the City.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel members, do you have any questions? Councillor Doshi first. Member Lafanti.
It's a traffic question, so I don't have any planning question juncture. My question is, do you agree with the TIA details and assumptions in relation to traffic type and volume, trip generation, associated timeframes, and the traffic distribution by roads, Roe and Sutherland? So what I'm really trying to get to, do you agree with the information that's contained in there and the assumptions that have been used to create the output? And that includes reference to the report that was commissioned by Self-Storage Australia, which is, I understand, what the applicant has indicated their TIA has used in identifying volumes and frequency. So it's really, do you agree with what's in that report?
Thank you for that. In general, I agree with the trip generation rates, which they have used as a reference. Generally, if we compare any manuals globally, they all are based on certain studies. So this trip generation rate for self-storage facility is also based on several studies done across Australia. and I agree with the trip generation rate. Though the location of this development is closer to the city, and it provides 500 units. Yeah, when you say 500 units, it's a big number, but not everyone come at the site at the same time. That's why we compare it with similar developments. And yes, the trip generation rate is acceptable. However, the traffic movement towards Sutherland Street, the exit towards Sutherland Street right turn moment, we feel there were some safety concerns, and I discussed with my team, and we reached a consensus that that movement need to be restricted for safety purposes. All other assumptions and the distribution trip generation, we were okay with it.
Thank you.
Yes.
My second question leads directly on that, from that. Thank you. So based on the initial comments you provided, I'm wanting to try and drill down on the concerns you have in relation to the right turn movement safety. And again, I'm oscillating back and forth between what the report says in your draft and what the applicant's material says. The applicant's material indicates a very low number of traffic movements out at Sutherland turning right, and indicated in the report that those the spread of the movements and the low number, I think the number was 6 in and out in the peak period. Do you, one, agree with that? And two, what level of concern do you have about safety given that low number of trips? And I'm really, I suppose, focusing on peak hour because for the most part, the roads are reasonably free moving outside of peak hour. Could you speak to your safety concerns given what the TIA material includes in terms of volumes and numbers and timeframes?
Sure. When we talk about safety, there is no gate line that says right turn should be restricted, but this is a judgmental thing from an engineer's perspective. So my thought process in this project was, yes, the southbound movements are low, but the northbound vehicles are very high. It's around 6,000 vehicles, especially in the PM peak hour, from around 4 to 6. We have seen consistent queuing tailbacks from the signal junction on the north side. So there is a possibility that the vehicles which are exiting to Sutherland Street, they are waiting to take right. They might be held back for multiple signal cycles because there is a queuing and they will not be able to completely merge with the traffic on the other side. So imagine that the vehicles are coming out and they couldn't find a gap in the vehicle traffic to the northbound because it's very high, and they wait in the median, and the median is very narrow. It cannot accommodate the length of a car. So that truck has to wait on the street. And imagine that truck or a car has a trailer in the back because it's a self-storage facility. Some of the cars could have trailers at least. So when you, in considering this situation, the car with a trailer blocking the southbound movement, it's a safety problem, especially in the peak hour. And other aspect was we check other vehicle access opportunities to the development. We understand there is very low volume, traffic volume for this project per hour at least. In 1 hour, maybe 10 or 11 trips. But they have 2 access options, one from Sutherland Street and one from Rose Street. So very low traffic volume, but 2 access options. And we are not restricting any entry to the development. So if someone wants to go to the site, we are not restricting any entry movements. We are restricting only one exit movement to a Sutherland Street. And the hierarchy of Sutherland Street is primary distributor A, which is a higher hierarchy street. And it is recommended in gate lines that access to a higher hierarchy street should be restricted and preference should be given to a lower hierarchy street. So which is Rose Street on the other side. So road hierarchy wise also, it's on a higher side. And then we check what other option does the user have if they want to exit to the freeway. And we realize that if they want to exit to the freeway, and if I am restricting the right turn, then they can come down to Wellington Street and get on the freeway, and that distance is less than 600 meters. So they have an alternative freeway access, freeway exit within a distance of 600 meters. So considering all these aspects, we feel based on for safety purposes, it's better to restrict the right turn.
Thank you.
Just a quick follow-up, sorry to that. Given your concerns there, why do you think Main Roads made no comment about it?
Because this is under the city. This road is under the city. It's not under main roads. It's the city's responsibility to make sure safety of that street because it falls under the city's pretty much responsibility.
So just going on for that, you're saying that they'll go left out of, they can't turn right out of the facility on Rose Street, so they're going to have to turn left out, go all the way to Wellington Street.
I mean, left out on Sutherland Street.
Yeah, onto Sutherland.
Then they can
Go all the way to Wellington. Where do they do a U-turn on Wellington? 'Cause
No, they will take a left on Wellington Street, and then they have another left on Wellington Street, which will take.
They come through.
they drive down Sutherland and they get to a T-junction at Wellington.
Yes. Again, take left.
Go left, and then go all the way to Milligan Street to get onto the freeway.
I'm gonna check my Google Maps if you don't know.
It's not quite as far as Milligan.
Okay, so I'm trying to think, there's Watertown on the corner, the RAC. Where's the on-ramp to the?
Just after the RAC.
Just beside the RAC.
Okay. Okay, yeah, sorry, I know where I am now. It's a nice short journey, isn't it? Okay, thank you for that. Other questions?
I have a question, but I'd like to ask the question to the applicant.
Yes, we can do that.
Traffic, Sam?
Sure. Would you like me to?
Yes, if you could. My question to you is also about your report, which I appreciate you might not have in front of you. I don't know if members have it. Your report refers to I'll get the section for you so you can look into it. It talks about vehicle peak times. Let me see if I can find it. Traffic volumes and peak times in there. Can you tell me what your report specifically, what you are saying is the peak time that you've calculated in this 0.5 daily? Well, where I'm trying to get to here is I get clarity between yourself and the city's traffic engineer about peak time travel and so we talk about peak time. Mostly peak time is referred to as the general traffic peak time, 7 to 9 or in the morning. And I want to get clarity. So for me, I'm clear. Your report peak time is referring to?
So thank you for the question, member. In the report, so the section regarding trip generation, which is I think the section you're referring to, just refers to the site peak generation. We don't actually specify where that sits within a clock face hour of the day. However, in the SIDRA assessment section and the turn warrant assessment section, so this is chapter 9, under 9.1.2, the second bullet point mentions that the trip generation source that we've used, which is the association's technical report based on the surveys, indicates that the weekday peak hour for these sites tends to occur around 11 a.m. So this is not during the morning road network peak or during the afternoon network peak. And then on the weekend peak occurs around 12 p.m, so midday. However, for the purpose of, like I said before, a robust assessment, we have assumed that both peaks coincide just to make sure that it still operates satisfactorily for that reason.
So your analysis in here has assumed that your peak numbers would coincide with the peak periods on the road network. Is that what you've just said?
I believe that is the case, yes.
And those numbers are 6.
The number for site trips is 6 out in the peak hour, and then that is split between the two access points, yes.
So is the concern of the cities, so we're going back to the city, principally the peak hour movement of this site in terms of its right turn movement out? Is that the big concern in relation to it? Because that ties into condition 11, which is kind of what I'm talking about at the moment, circling back to. Is that where the concern is?
Sorry.
So is your concern principally about traffic movement out of this site on Sutherland, the right turn out, associated with the peak movement of traffic in the road network, which is Monday to Friday, principally, the peak movement in both morning and evening? Is that your concern, that is the movement at that point, or is it the movement at any time coming out at right?
Our concern is not movement at any time, specifically for the peak hour when the trips or the workers towards the northbound is the highest, and which will create queuing from the northbound junction further down. And that will reduce opportunity for the visitors to come out and merge with the traffic, because they will have to wait for longer. And when drivers lose patience, what they tend to do is they come to the median center of the road and wait there. They will not wait at the crossover. They will try to cross the road even though they don't have a vertical gap to enter. They will try to cross and wait in the central median, which is very narrow.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions?
I have one other question then.
Yes, go ahead.
Based on my questioning that I have been talking about, is there anything that you want to provide us? Because I might not have asked the question in the right way. Is there anything else you want to provide us, given what I'm trying to get at, which is understanding of safety and issues in the peak period associated with this development?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, if we don't have any further questions of the staff or the presenters at this stage, and I will now move into discussion on the application. And before we can do that, I'll do seek a mover and a seconder for the recommended conditions. Do I have a mover? Member Lafanti. Do I have a seconder? Seconder, Councillor Doshi. Member Lafanti, speak to the item, please.
Yes, thank you to everybody that's provided material, and thank you to both traffic representatives and experts here who have answered my questions in relation to those aspects. In terms of the land use and the built form design, I have absolutely no concerns with those. The report quite clearly articulates the planning framework that it sits within, and the extent to the variations from that framework, particularly around setbacks and heights and parking relative to the nature of the use. The design has incorporated some exterior treatments, both in terms of its visual as well as its inclusion of windows to have a strong presence on that site. And it's also consistent with the CPS 2 and the Hamilton precinct. I am very familiar with the site locations, and it has been vacant for a very long time. And this use design looks a positive use for that particular intersection. In terms of the parking and the traffic in particular, I do, however, at this juncture, wish to move Amendment 1.
Hey, Amendment 1, and the amendment is your condition 11. Do I have a seconder for that? Member Hyam seconds. Member Lafanti, speak to that item, please.
Thank you. I have given significant regard to this particular aspect, and before entering today's meeting, I had some reservations about this particular taking this particular pathway. However, in relation to this, I've had significant opportunity to go through the detail, and I'm satisfied that based on material we have received here, the discussion in the RA, as well as the discussion from the traffic experts today, that the volume, that the concern primarily relates to traffic movement from this site at peak, particularly evening peak period of traffic moving onto the freeway. I would acknowledge the concerns raised. However, the volume that has been contained in this material that has been agreed to by both parties, that they're satisfied that the TIA that we have in front of us, that they agree with the information contained in it. There's no disagreement relating to the spread of the numbers, the traffic generation, the volume, the timeframes for those for that traffic. I'm satisfied that a very low number in peak period is acceptable in this location, and that is also predicated on the Sutherland Street intersection as well. That being said, I do acknowledge that people can get frustrated, and many of those people will turn left and take the longer route to wherever they're going in order to get out. Just that's the normal pathway. Whilst there might be the one or two unusual people who get very frustrated and seek to make that manoeuvre, I am not satisfied that we can make a determination based on one or two rogue people that may seek to do a dangerous manoeuvre in the street. That can happen anywhere in our street network. But based on the material we have, based on the robustness of that material in terms of the nature of this development, I'm satisfied that the trip movement is very low in the peak period. And I'm also satisfied that the material we've got, that the primary peak movement to these types of facilities is not during, doesn't correspond to the peak period of the traffic movement on a Monday to Friday. So for those reasons, I'm satisfied that this manoeuvre can occur and that deletion of condition 11 in this particular instance is appropriate. I also do note that it is within the control of the city and the control of Main Roads, and Main Roads have flagged in the event that they wish to, if they in the event there is upgrades to the road network, they may prevent movement out there. It's been clearly articulated. It's in the material we have. It's contained in the RA. It's contained in the applicant's own documents. So the applicant is well aware that a future limitation may occur in that street, and that is available to Main Roads. And it's also available to the city of their own road network to do any works they believe is appropriate. But based on the material we have, I'm satisfied that condition 11 can be deleted.
Thank you. Member Higham was seconder. You used to speak.
Thank you. Yes, look, I'm more than happy to support this amendment to delete condition 11. I agree with the mover. We have a situation where there is very low volume traffic likely to exit at this point. If it's 6 in their peak, then that will be spread over, or could be spread over 2 points of exit. And not everyone will be wanting to turn right into Sutherland Street, so it might only be 1 or 2 vehicles. And I think drivers generally are sensible. If the traffic is that badly jammed in that location of Sutherland Street during that peak time, then you would choose to turn left and do the manoeuvre that was suggested by the officers. So I'm more than happy to support the deletion of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Doshi, you used to speak to the amendment.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will speak to it. I also support the deletion of condition 11. People moving out of the site, if it is congested, they can turn left and go up Rose Street and exit through, I think it's the City West site. There's a road that runs through that. They can do a loop around and come back at the traffic lights and then do a left onto the freeway, which is the main source of the traffic heading south anyway, because you can't get off the freeway at that point. So I think that's probably if the operators are going to hand out how to get in and out of the site and how to get onto the freeway, if they're going to give that some instructions, and that's an alternative which is probably not as long distance as going up to Wellington Street. So I'm supporting that as well. Therefore, at this stage, I'll put back to the mover of the amendment to write a reply if necessary. Okay, I'll put amendment 1 to delete condition 11. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Yes, if you'd like to speak further, Member Bandy, to the
overall, as already indicated, I support the proposal. I'm satisfied that the signage that's also provided on it is appropriate in the context. It meets the signage policy LPP 4.6. It also provides good visibility for anybody, so it's great for identifying of the site from the broader network, given that it is a tight movement for the city generally, and the visibility of the site is important for these types of facilities. We also satisfy the external architect and building material and finishes are appropriate in the context of the site, and the inclusion of level interface, particularly as been spoken about today, the landscaping, the facade treatments, as well as that sort of planter garden area, creates a very positive frontage on that corner, which has sat for very many years, no development.
Thank you. Seconder, Member Hyam, you wish to speak?
That's
Oh,
myself.
sorry, Councillor Doshi, that's right.
Thank you. Through you, presiding member, I wish to express my support for the proposed self-storage development here in West Perth, as it aligns strongly with the strategic planning objectives of West Perth and contributes meaningfully to the area that's evolving, especially with the feedback recently through GEL Urban Planners and our Towards 36 study. As we see West Perth continue to grow in population, the introduction of high quality self-storage facilities offers several benefits, some of these being space optimization for residents. So with apartment living becoming increasingly common around the West Perth area, self-storage provides essential spaces for furniture, personal belongings that don't fit into those smaller dwellings. As an apartment owner in East Perth myself, and having benefited from storage solutions in the past, I see the value add in this particular service. Number two, the support of small businesses and startups. So having a little look around that area, and in terms of the businesses that are there, as well as residential, the rise of entrepreneurs, home-based businesses and remote working creates that demand and that flexibility for affordable storage solutions. And I believe that self-storage offers that cost-effective alternative to commercial leases. So I think, again, that would be a benefit for the smaller business and startups in the area. And just an improved lifestyle, having a decluttered space to live in is always a positive thing. So I believe the proposal reflects sustainable land use. It supports the economic activity and meets the changing demands of our growing urban community. The design is good and it contributes to the broader vision for growth, livability and functionality within West Perth and the wider metropolitan area. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, Member Hyam, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. Look, this, in my view, is the perfect use for this site. It's in a difficult location. It's a difficult shaped site, and I couldn't imagine any other use really on this site, particularly residential or anything like that. So for me, it's a great use for the location, and it's a well-resolved design. I think of all the storage facilities that I've dealt with over the last few years, this would have to be the best looking one and well-designed one. So congratulations to the applicant team. I agree with the comments that have been made that it does satisfy the intent of the precinct and the scheme. It's consistent with that statement. I agree with the officer's reasons for accepting the height and setback variations. I think there are well-founded reasons for that. So I said it's a well-resolved design and certainly following the DRP recommended changes, or most of them that were dealt with by the applicant. So as I've said, it will sit well in this location and I wholeheartedly support it.
Thank you. I too will speak in support. It's once again, I think at the street level, it's quite a good resolution of a passive use. It's well landscaped at the street level, and I think that it presents well at that level. It's a landmark site. I think you'll find that the use is fit for purpose for the building. The site, I think, will become a bit of a landmark and an attractive way of finding your way around that area of Perth, particularly at night. It'd be interesting to see the LEDs on that site at night, complement the arena across the road that's lit up like a wedding cake at night as well. It's a difficult site, and I think that the ability to get a rectangle or a square rectangular footprint on it has been good. The discretion that's been sought on setbacks, I think, is warranted, and I commend the staff for working through with the applicants on that. And the applicants are well aware that access may be constrained in the future, but as they said, that it's something that once the development is operative, and in the long term, people will need to work through any restrictions on access. So I'm supporting it, and that being the case, I'll now put back to the mover for right of reply. Okay, I'll put the amended recommendation with the deletion of condition 11. All those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on in the agenda. Item 4, Form 2 DAP applications. There are none under item section B. Item 5, section 31 SAT reconsiderations. There are none. Through the agenda, item 1 SAT applications, Supreme Court appeals. They are all listed. None with the City of Perth on there. And item 2 on the agenda for Part C is closure of meeting at 10:41 a.m. I'll thank the presenters, council staff, panel members, and our hard-working support team. And thank you very much. See you all later.
Thank you.